Hello there. What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be doing an Armada build. It's going to be a starter Rebel Armada build, and I know that there were some criticisms over my last Imperial Armada build about, hey, some of these ships that you were saying we'd have to get aren't available. That's kind of one of the things I'm going to address. So with that, and maybe modify this build a little bit to reflect that. But before I get too far into it, I do want to remind you guys about the $100 Amazon gift card giveaway that's going on right now. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. This is running all month long, way bigger than most of the giveaways that I have going on. So that's actually pretty cool. And so yeah, that was kind of a little like a Gen Con kind of thing. So I'll be announcing that during Gen Con weekend, the winner for that one. So definitely stay tuned because there's gonna be a lot of really cool information coming out during all of that. Also, if you are interested in supporting the channel, there's links down below. We've got some new masks that are recently added, new gator necks. There's t-shirts, there's Armada shirts, X-Wing shirts, Legion shirts. We've got masks for all the different, for a lot of the different Star Wars characters, and gator necks and bags and all kinds of new things coming all the time. So all that stuff definitely helps support the channel, and I appreciate everybody who is helping out in that way. So that's pretty cool. So thank you to all of you guys out there, and for everybody just watching in general. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and start. I'm going to be using Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder today, and I'll put a link in the description so you can check this Fleet Builder out. It's a fantastic Fleet Builder. We're going to be using Rebels, and I'm going to be using General Dodonna as my commander. One of the things about Dodonna, I think he's kind of like an all-comers type of commander. He works for just about every kind of list. And I wanted to make this a very basic list that would use a lot of the starter stuff. A lot of the stuff that you're going to have in the starter. You've got CR90s, you've got Nebulons. All of that stuff is stuff that players who are just starting are going to have. So I figured, why not use both of those? We use two versions of each. So maybe you got two starters, or maybe you bought like some of the expansions that came out during Wave 1. So we're going to go with a CR90A and a CR90B to start off with. Now, neither one of these are going to be our flagship. I'm not going to put a whole lot of upgrades on these either, primarily because some of the best upgrades for them don't come available right away. Also because they only have so many points, and I want to actually have a pretty cool list. I want to have squadrons in this list too, so I can't fill up all the points that I would normally like to put. So for our CR90B, I did mention I was going to have Dodonna as our commander. And if it may sound like a no-brainer, but Dodonna's Pride is actually a really good title to work into a fleet with a CR90B. Look, you've got a lot of blue dice all around this thing, which does mean it wants to get in pretty close to enemy ships. But also, you've got this awesome title that does allow a blue crit to cancel all dice and deal a face-up damage to the defender. The beauty about this particular title is that sometimes you have only one damage anyway, and okay, it's just going to go to a shield anyhow. So this way it lets you bypass all of that and just go straight through their shields to their straight up to their hull, which lets you bypass big shields. It lets you kill a ship quicker. And with Dodonna as your commander, it's going to let you pick from one of four, which can really just cripple somebody. So this is awesome. And if you happen to get double arced, this is not a once per activation type of crit. So you can actually potentially get this one going twice if you're able to double arc somebody. Granted, this does mean you're not that survivable because it means you're pretty close. However, it's a pretty cool title, especially with a Dodonna fleet on a CR90B. For our CR90A, one of the most common upgrades taken with this is turbo laser reroute circuits, but we're not going to be using that in this particular one because it comes with the MC30, and I kind of wanted to keep some of the criticism of like, hey, I would have to get too much stuff. I totally understand that. A lot of things are hard to come by right now. Some things are coming back in stock. If you check FFG's site, Asmodee's site, there's some things that weren't available that have recently come back available. So, like, again, people are always asking me, when is stuff coming back in stock? You just have to see it. It's almost random the way things just kind of show up and then sell out again. So, for this particular CR90A, I'm just going to put a title on there. I'm going to put Jaina's Light. If you happen to have an MC30 or a copy of Turbo Laser Reroute Circuits, it also goes really well on a CR90A, especially one with Jaina's Light. But even without it, you can hope for the best, I suppose. But yeah, you kind of want to stay at a distance with this one, behind enemy ships, behind obstacles, because you will not be obstructed. Jaina's Light is going to say you can ignore the fact of you can ignore overlapping obstacles. You can also, your attacks can't be obstructed. This may be one of the most overpowered titles, especially compared to its cost in the whole game. Incredible Incredible little title here. Love it, love it, love it. It also works great with a ton of objectives. Now, that's all I'm going to put on the CR90s, but I'm also going to put some Nebulons in there. So let's take a look at the Nebulons because we've got two different versions. I'm going to put them both down here. Now this presumes that maybe you picked up one of each of the expansions that comes out with with your core box. And during the initial launch of the game, there were CR90 and Nebulon expansions that had the extra titles and some other nifty upgrades. But if we look at the two of these, there were two titles that were generally run on these when this game was brand new. And for the escort frigate, which has 2 blue and 2 squadron, generally we would run Yavaris because that can allow your squadrons to double tap, which is really nice. Even though after it's been errated a little bit, it still sticks kind of true to the same spirit. And then for the support refit, which was the cheaper Nebulon, the granddaddy of titles for this one was Salvation, because you could get crits out of the front and have them work very, very well. In a lot of fleet building, you're going to put more upgrades on than just this. Sometimes people will put something like, slaved turrets on the Salvation because you're probably only attacking once each round. It's that front attack that really matters, and this is one of the cheapest ways to increase that front attack. Or things like quad battery turrets are also good. Linked turbo laser towers, all of that stuff is good, but in sticking here, I wouldn't put anything else on there just for this build. So I'm just running 4 ships, 4 titles so far. We're only at 211 points. We're going to have more. I did say Dodana, right? Which means I need a flagship. Let's kind of stick with the launch wave, or wave 1 at least, of this game. And we're going to go with an assault frigate. The assault frigate, some people are not crazy about the assault frigate. I think it may be the best ship in the game, at least for its points. It's good at everything, but it's not it's like a jack of all trades, but a master of none. It doesn't do anything exceedingly well, but it does everything pretty good. It can be a good carrier. It can be a darn good carrier. It can be good anti-squadron platform. It can be a good attack platform. It can be a good double archer, or it can be a good broadsider. It can be a good tanky ship. Moderately good at all of those things. I love it. And at 72 points for the cheapest option, it's a really good point price. I mean, honestly, we look at like an MC30, and they're only 10 points, or 9 points cheaper, So, I don't know. Or heck, 69 for the scout frigate. 69 versus 70. So 3-point difference between a small ship and this one. I mean, I love the assault frigate. So we're going to go with a Mark IIB for this because I'm going to have squadrons. This one has got the better squadron value, and we might need some extra squadron commands. So we'll go with that. Mark IIB is just generally a good one to go with anyway. It gets you kind of in the door with this ship for the cheaper price point, and it's still a very good ship. 6 hull makes it a great candidate for a flagship, so we will put General Dodana on here. General Dodana is going to allow our crits to be super awesome in this game. We're going to get to pick 4. This also applies to an enemy that crits themselves, like by landing on an asteroid or something like that, which is really an extra beautiful thing about Dodana. We do have defensive retrofit here, so certainly you could go with electronic countermeasures. I'm not going to do that for this particular build because I want to teach you guys a little bit about how, if you're new, I want you to learn a little bit about the power of advanced projectors. It's great, and this is one of the best ships in the game to use it on. The only problem with advanced projectors is there exists one really hard counter to it, and that is the XI7 turbo lasers. I'm not going to run that on this ship, but I want to talk about it a little bit, because if you happen to face this one particular card, it's basically virtually nullifies the redirect action, whereas advanced projectors virtually supercharges the redirect action. So they're both kind of diametrically opposed to each other, but XI7 wins. And so considering that, one of the things is nowadays not as many people are running XI7 as they used to. It's not like one of these auto includes. It's still and always will be a good upgrade card, but there's a lot of other really good contenders for turbo laser slots. So I feel like it's safe to try and run advanced projectors again. And while maybe it's not necessarily better than ECM, it's still really good. So, let's run advanced projectors here. You can see, and hopefully you get a chance to see how it could work. It could work really, really well, and that's a good thing if it does. We also want to put another upgrade on here. I'll put Gunnery Team on Assault Frigate Mark IIB here because, hey, its side arc is really strong, And let's take advantage of that by trying to be able to get two big shots off of on two different characters. The other cool thing about this kind of setup is now I've got 5 ships and they all want to fly differently. Now this makes for a really cool starter build because you can get to see all of the different types of maneuvering in this list. And that's something that I don't really take into consideration for a lot of my lists, but this is a really fun kind of way to see how everybody's going to fly. Now, the assault frigate is going to be wanting to keep it's going to be wanting to do the broadside thing, which means it's going to be circular strafing. It's going to try and keep multiple enemy ships in its broadside. Not the easiest thing to do, or potentially fly in between 2 ships and set up like an Akbar slash without Akbar, but have a left and right shot, which is really cool. Now the Nebulons fly a little differently than that. They want to be pointed straight at the opponent, so they don't want their broadsides facing you. Not particularly. They want to be pointed straight at you to take advantage of that front hull zone, especially with titles like the Salvation. And one wants exclusively to be shooting at you from with the front side. Now the Yavaris, a little different. Still, it prefers the front side, but the priority in this one is that it's going to be wanting to maintain a position relevant to the squadrons that it's going to be giving commands to, primarily those that are in position to be able to double tap without moving. And so while it's generally flying a similar profile to the Nebulon B support refit, this one's going to have a different priority. So these two are going to fly differently. Similar with in this regard, we're looking at the CR90s, and these two are going to fly differently, but similar as well. In that they don't want to necessarily have you in broadside. They don't necessarily need to focus on the front arc. They really want to double arc you. That's what the CR90s want to do. They want to kind of have the diagonal. So whereas the assault frigate wants to give you its side and the Nebulons want to give you their front, the CR90s want to give you that corner where they want to, kind of land in a position where they have 2 shots. Because neither one of their arcs are particularly strong, so to get the biggest bang for your buck here, you really need to have them line up a double arc, and they have the speed and maneuverability to make that happen. Now, these also are going to fly a little bit differently. The CR90 Corvette A wants to have you double arced from a distance, which is harder to do. Usually you're only going to get 1 arc on this one because it's really hard to double arc somebody from a distance at long range. But one of the reasons it wants to do that is because it wants to hide behind hide behind other ships and or obstacles, so this way it's defended, is protected against return fire, while being able to ignore the obstruction and even ignore overlapping while shooting. And conversely, the CR90B is going to have an easier time trying to line up those double arc shots because it's going to be getting in much closer because it cannot even attack at long range. So it's going to be getting in much closer to try and get those medium and close range shots with the blue dice, especially to double arc and maybe get lucky and get 2 crits with Dodonna's Pride. So all of these ships are going to be flying differently. So this should be a really good introduction to the different mechanics you see, and whichever type of ship you have the most success with, you can do more things like that. Like if you have a lot of success with the CR90B getting in close, maybe you want to then invest in MC30s, scout frigates, and get in those blue and black dice and do more blue-black stuff. If you have fun with the Nebulons pointing straight at your opponent, maybe you want to look at Liberties, which can go straight at the opponent and do even more stuff. If you have fun with the side broadsiding, maybe you want to look at a home 1 with Admiral Akbar and set up an Akbar build. There's so many really cool things that a list like this can potentially introduce you to, and so that's fun. Now let's do the squadrons, because this is going to be the final part to this build, and sometimes we'll do squadrons first, if we're doing a squadron specific build, but this one, the squadrons are there just to round out the build, not to be the centerpiece. Now, I wanted to use a lot of X-Wings because you're going to have those in the core set, but I also had to branch out a little bit because I think an HWK is going to be crucial to a new player to kind of, keep one TIE fighter from just tying up everybody. And an HWK is going to give your X-Wings some flexibility, hopefully allow them to break out of engagement and go after enemy ships, giving you a little bit more ship firepower. The X-Wings have bomber, so they have a chance to get criticals, which is also going to synergize with General Dodonna. If we look at the X-Wings, they're pretty good overall. If you go up against TIE fighters or a lot of Imperial stuff, 4 blue dice is not bad. They don't get a reroll, but they are getting extra dice, so they can one-shot a TIE fighter. It's not super likely. You're more statistically likely to get 2 damage off of an X-Wing shot, but then again, you can always just ignore the X-Wing or the TIE fighters and use the HWK's intel keyword to take these X-Wings into battle against ships, depending on how many you face. We're going to put 4 of these X-Wings in here, and then we're going to add 1 more ship, and that's going to be the man, the myth, the legend, Luke Skywalker. Yes, he also comes in the core set, so you should have him. This brings us to 400 points exactly, but the strength of Luke here is that if, like the golden scenario that you want to be able to do in here, in addition to lining up all your ships and getting the best shots you possibly can with all of your ships, you want Luke Skywalker to be able to double tap that enemy flagship with the Avaris title. You want Luke to be able to attack twice, hopefully roll that black crit, bypasses shields, gets the critical hit on the enemy ship, and Dodonna triggers, and then you get to pick 4, and you can, hopefully maybe you can do that twice if you're lucky. That's kind of the dream scenario, and hey, sometimes it'll happen, and if you do, that's really cool. So you've got some squadron play and some good squadron basics that you can kind of work on here with trying to prevent engagements, trying to go after enemy squadrons, and whatever's left actually trying to go after ships, hoping that you can roll bomber. Your HWK will hopefully be protected because of the escort keyword on the X-Wings, and it's going to teach you a little bit about squadron placement, while all of these other ships are going to teach you about setting up ships and having them all perform different roles. We didn't go too heavy on the upgrades here. Again, if you have more stuff, feel free to maybe drop 1 ship and put some more upgrades out there. Or if you got a flotilla, maybe swap out maybe the CR-90B for a GR-75 and get a few more points for upgrades. That's certainly something you might want to consider doing. There's definitely a lot of flexibility in a build like this. All right, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Let me pull up a little kind of text view here so you guys can kind of see the build. I think it's a pretty good introduction to the game. It's mostly using very, very early stuff from Star Wars Armada, hopefully not asking you to buy too much extra stuff. Granted, a lot of that extra stuff is sold out anyway, and it comes back in from time to time. I'm really hoping that once the Clone Wars comes out, we're going to see a lot more reprints coming in, a lot more Fast and Furious, because the demand for this game is going to skyrocket. And that's all I've got for right now. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and click that bell for alerts. Share the video with your friends if you'd like, and I will talk to you guys later. Big thanks to my patrons on Patreon. You guys are absolutely amazing and make this all possible. So thank you so much. And as always, have a great day.